Whispers in the Capilano forest. The Capilano forest, with its towering evergreens and misty trails, was a place of profound significance to the Squamish nation. The forest was more than land, it was a living entity, a keeper of stories and a witness to countless generations of the Auxbeamics, the Squamish people, who had lived in harmony with its ancient rhythms. The cedar trees stood as sentinels, their roots entwined with the memories of ancestors, their canopies whispering the songs of the past. Among the Squamish, there were stories of Skull 7C, the Watcher, a spirit said to inhabit the deepest parts of the forest. Skull 7S. I was both protector and enigma, appearing only in times of great change or danger. For centuries, elders passed down tales of how Skull 7S guided hunters, protected the forest from harm, and sometimes tested those who dared enter its sacred grounds without respect. One cold autumn evening, Aileen, a young woman from the Squamish nation, returned to her ancestral land near the Capilano River. She had spent years in the city, but felt the call of her roots pulling her back. Carrying only a small pack and the woven cedar bracelet her grandmother had given her, she ventured into the forest to reconnect with the spirits of her people and seek clarity for her path ahead. The forest was alive with its usual sounds, the rush of the river, the rustling of leaves in the cool breeze, and the distant call of an owl. Aileen followed a narrow trail that twisted deeper into the heart of the woods, her footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of moss. She paused to admire the ancient trees, their bark etched with time and their limbs stretched skyward like prayers. As twilight deepened, an unusual stillness descended. The air grew heavier, charged with an energy Aileen could feel prickling against her skin. The wind stilled, and even the river's murmur seemed subdued. Then she heard it, a low rhythmic sound, like a drumbeat, faint but distinct. It came from somewhere ahead, drawing her closer. Aileen followed the sound until she reached a clearing bathed in the pale glow of the rising moon. At its centre stood an ancient cedar, its trunk wider than any she had ever seen. The drumbeat stopped as she stepped closer, replaced by a hushed voice carried on the breeze. It spoke in the Squamish language, words she couldn't fully understand but felt in her soul. Qui enchank sabu, plus evenal? What do you seek, child? Aileen froze, her breath caught in her chest. Standing beside the cedar was a figure cloaked in shadow. Its outline was humanoid but unnaturally tall, its features blurred, as if it existed both in this world and another. Its presence was neither threatening nor inviting, it simply was, ancient and immovable. I don't know, Aileen whispered, her voice trembling. The figure tilted its head, studying her as if peering into the depths of her heart. You carry the strength of your ancestors, but have forgotten their voice. Listen, and you will remember. The ground beneath Eileen's feet seemed to pulse, and images flooded her mind. She saw the village of her ancestors, vibrant and alive, their laughter mingling with the drumbeat of ceremonies. She saw the forest as it once was, untouched and teeming with life, and the spirits that guarded it, including Skal 7SI. Finally, she saw herself standing at the crossroads of two paths, one leading back to the city, the other disappearing into the forest. When the visions faded, Eileen found herself kneeling at the base of the ancient cedar. The figure was gone, but its presence lingered, like the echo of a song. The drumbeat resumed, distant and faint, as if retreating deeper into the forest. As Eileen rose and made her way back, she felt a strange sense of clarity. The Capilano forest wasn't just a place of beauty or mystery. It was a guardian of her people's stories, a living reminder of the strength and resilience of the Squamish nation. She vowed to honor the connection she had rediscovered and to listen, as her ancestors once did, to the whispers of the forest. And deep in the shadows of the trees, Skal 7S I watched, unseen but ever present, satisfied that one more soul had found its way home. The Capilano Forest in British Columbia has long been a place shrouded in mystery, its towering evergreens and winding trails holding stories whispered between the trees. By day, the forest is a serene haven, but by night, it transforms into a shadowy realm where the boundaries between reality and folklore blur. She had ventured deep into the forest that evening, seeking solitude and the peace only nature could offer. Wrapped in a thick wool blanket, she lay nestled against a moss-covered log by her small campfire. The night air was crisp, and the stars above spread across the sky like scattered diamonds on black velvet. The gentle murmur of the Capilano River mingled with the occasional hoot of an owl, creating a symphony of tranquility. She inhaled deeply, savouring the earthy scent of pine and damp soil. But peace is fragile in places where legends are born. The fire had died down to glowing embers, casting flickering shadows that danced ominously among the trees. Just as she was drifting into a light sleep, the sharp snap of a twig pierced the quiet. Her eyes snapped open, heart pounding in her chest. She stared into the dark tree line, her breath catching as a tall, dark silhouette emerged from the shadows. It moved deliberately, each step measured, yet its sheer size was undeniable. She sat up abruptly, her blanket sliding to the ground as the figure drew nearer. For a fleeting moment, she thought it might be a bear, but its gait was too deliberate, its frame too upright. As it stepped into the faint light of the embers, her breath hitched. The creature was massive, its body covered in thick, dark hair that seemed to absorb the dim glow. Its face, however, was almost human, a strange blend of primal features and an uncanny intelligence, the Sasquatch. It stared at her with eyes that glimmered like molten amber. There was no aggression in its gaze, only an unsettling curiosity. Her fear froze her in place, her pulse thundering in her ears as it tilted its head, studying her like a puzzle it had yet to solve. She could smell it now, the earthy scent of musk and damp fur mingling with the forest air. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature let out a deep, resonant grunt that echoed through the silent valley. It turned and retreated into the forest, its massive frame swallowed by the shadows. She sat there, trembling, her mind racing to make sense of what she had just witnessed. The image of its face was burned into her memory, haunting and impossible to forget. Slowly, her fear began to ebb, replaced by an overwhelming sense of awe. She had seen it, the creature spoken of in hushed tones around campfires and in the margins of ancient legends. The Sasquatch wasn't just a story, it was real.
Continuing their investigation into what caused the Sea to Sky gondola to collapse.
The RCMP continue to try and look for suspects. They was deliberately cut, calling it an act of vandalism, and they are looking for individuals who may have, for example, hiked underneath, cut that particular cable, and caused the 30 cars to come crashing down.
Extremely fit, knows the area well, and had specific knowledge about what tools to use in order to cut the cables in such a way that it would cause catastrophic damage to the gondola while protecting the suspect themselves from harm.
RCMP have shared new surveillance footage